The moment Hunter Fairchild stepped through the gleaming doors of the Grand Plaza Hotel, he knew this wouldn't be just another social obligation. Something in the air felt different, electric, as if the universe had finally decided to throw him a curveball after years of predictable success. "Hunter, you actually made it," called Marcus, his oldest friend from college, weaving through the crowd with a champagne flute in hand. "I was betting Olivia you'd cancel at the last minute for some emergency board meeting." Hunter adjusted his custom Italian suit jacket, a half-smile playing on his lips. At 34, he'd built Fairchild Innovations from a startup in his garage to a shipping logistics empire worth over $800 million. Emergencies were just Tuesday mornings to him. "And miss your engagement party? Not a chance," Hunter replied, accepting the glass Marcus offered. "Though I did have to reschedule a call with Singapore," Marcus laughed, clapping him on the shoulder. "Same old Hunter, always working." Which is why, he gestured to a stunning woman in a navy dress approaching them, "you need to meet Olivia." "The famous Hunter Fairchild," Olivia said, extending her hand. "Marcus talks about you constantly." "All exaggerations, I'm sure," Hunter replied with practiced charm. "Actually, he mostly complains that you never take vacations," she teased. "But seriously, thank you for the ridiculously generous engagement gift. The vacation to Bali is too much." Hunter waved it off. "You two deserve it." His eyes drifted across the elegant ballroom decorated with tasteful floral arrangements and twinkling lights. Beautiful event. "Your planner did an amazing job." Olivia exchanged a knowing glance with Marcus. "Actually, my coworker from the museum handled everything. She's a curator like me, but she has this incredible eye for design. Oh, there she is, Olivia." Hunter followed her gaze, confused by the name repetition, until he spotted her, a woman with copper-colored hair cascading over bare shoulders, laughing with an elderly couple. She wore a simple emerald dress that caught the light as she moved, creating the illusion of water flowing around her. "Two Olivias?" Hunter asked, his interest piqued despite himself. "Olivia Hayes," Marcus explained. "We call her Liv at the museum to avoid confusion. She's brilliant, specializes in Renaissance art, but can talk your ear off about pretty much anything. Come on, I'll introduce you." Before Hunter could protest, Marcus was guiding him across the room. As they approached, the woman turned, and Hunter felt an unexpected jolt when their eyes met. Hers were a striking amber, intelligent and warm. "Liv, meet the man himself, Hunter Fairchild," Marcus announced. "The shipping magnate," she said, with a smile that transformed her face. "Marcus has told me all about your adventures together." Hunter extended his hand, surprised by the strength in her grip. "All lies, I assure you. Even the story about the sailing trip in Greece where you negotiated $1 million deal while stranded on a broken yacht." Hunter shot Marcus a look. "Some embellishment, then." "It's nice to finally meet you," Liv said. "I was beginning to think Marcus invented you as some kind of imaginary successful friend to motivate the rest of us." Hunter found himself laughing genuinely, not the polite chuckle he reserved for business functions. "I could say the same. He's been singing your praises since you transformed this place. I'm impressed." "Just wait until you try the appetizers," she replied. "I convinced the chef to serve these little truffle arancini that will change your life." Their conversation flowed with surprising ease. Hunter learned that Olivia had worked at the Metropolitan Museum of Art for 7 years, specializing in Italian Renaissance paintings. She had an encyclopedic knowledge of art history, but spoke about it with such enthusiasm that it never felt pretentious. "So how does a Renaissance art expert become an event planner on the side?" Hunter asked as they found themselves at the bar later that evening. Liv shrugged, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "I grew up helping in my parents' restaurant." "You learn quickly how to create experiences people remember. Plus, Marcus has been my friend since I started at the museum. When he got engaged, I couldn't let them have anything less than perfect." "Well, you succeeded," Hunter said, looking around at the glittering event. "Though I'm surprised you didn't go with a Renaissance theme." Oh please, she laughed, the sound warming something inside him. Can you imagine Marcus in tights and a codpiece? The mental image made Hunter nearly choke on his drink. That's horrifying, actually. Exactly. So I stuck with timeless elegance instead. She checked her watch. Speaking of which, I need to make sure they're ready for the toast in 10 minutes. Can I help? Hunter offered, surprising himself. She paused, studying him with those amber eyes. The shipping mogul wants to help check on catering. I'm very good at logistics, he replied with a smile. It's kind of my thing. They spent the next hour working in unexpected harmony, Hunter helping coordinate the toast timing, Liv making last-minute adjustments to the gift table display. He found himself watching her as she worked, admiring the quiet efficiency in her movements, the way she seemed to notice everything at once. When Marcus pulled him aside later, his friend was grinning like a cat. I saw you talking with Liv. What do you think? Hunter kept his expression neutral. She's impressive, smart. And single, Marcus added, not subtly, just saying. I'm not looking for a relationship, Hunter reminded him, the standard response he'd given for years. His last serious girlfriend had made it clear 3 years ago that she wanted his money and connections more than she wanted him. Since then, he'd kept women at a careful distance. Right, because work is your one true love, Marcus teased. Just remember, not everyone's after your bank account, Hunt. As the night wound down, Hunter found himself scanning the room for Liv again. He spotted her by the dessert table, handling a minor crisis involving the chocolate fountain with graceful efficiency. Need reinforcements. He asked, appearing at her side. She looked up, relief evident on her face. Could you grab some napkins from the bar? This thing is having a chocolate eruption. They worked side by side to contain the fountain disaster, and somehow ended up laughing as Liv accidentally got chocolate on her hand and then, attempting to fix her hair, streaked it across her temple. Hold still, Hunter said, reaching out with a napkin to gently wipe it away. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the noisy party around them seemed to fade. He noticed a small scatter of freckles across her nose he hadn't seen before. Thanks, she said softly, and Hunter realized he'd been holding the napkin against her temple longer than necessary. You have a little. He gestured to his own cheek and she laughed, trying to find the spot. Here, he said, stepping closer. This time when he touched her face, the air between them seemed to crackle with something undefinable. Hunter Fairchild, are you flirting with me? She asked suddenly, her eyes sparkling with mischief. He pulled his hand back, momentarily thrown off balance. Because if you are, she continued, you should know I'm completely immune to charming millionaires. The directness caught him off guard, but he found himself grinning. Is that right? You encounter many of them in the art world, more than you'd think. They all want to talk about their collections and how much they paid for them. Very tedious. And what if I don't want to talk about my money? She raised an eyebrow. What would you want to talk about then? Why Renaissance art matters in the 21st century, he suggested. Over dinner, maybe. The words had left his mouth before he'd fully processed them. Hunter Fairchild didn't ask women out on impulse. He didn't ask women out, period, not anymore. Liv looked genuinely surprised, and for a moment he thought she might refuse. Then she smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. I'm free on Thursday, she said. Thursday it is, he replied, trying to ignore the unexpected flutter in his chest. As the party ended and guests began to leave, Hunter found himself lingering, helping the staff clear tables despite their protests. You really don't have to do this, Liv told him as she supervised the dismantling of the flower arrangements, setting aside a few to take home. I know, he said simply, but I want to. When they finally walked out together, the night air was cool and clear. Hunter's driver was waiting with the Bentley, but he hesitated before getting in. Can I drop you somewhere? He offered. Liv shook her head. I'm just a few blocks away. The walk will be nice. At least let me walk you, he said, dismissing his driver for the night with a quick text. They strolled through the quiet streets, their conversation shifting from art to travel to childhood memories. Hunter found himself telling her about growing up with a father who ran a small shipping company, about learning the business from the ground up before revolutionizing it with technology. "So the shipping empire was your destiny from the start?" she asked. "I suppose." "Though I wanted to be an architect when I was younger." She looked at him with new interest. "Really, what happened?" Hunter shrugged. "Practicality. Dad needed help with the business and I had a head for numbers and systems, but I still design sometimes buildings, spaces, just for myself." "I'd like to see them sometime," she said, and he could tell she meant it. When they reached her apartment, building a pre-war walk-up with character, but none of the luxury he was accustomed to, he felt strangely reluctant to say goodbye. "So, Thursday," he confirmed. "I'll pick you up at 7. 7 works," she replied. "Fair warning, I can talk about Raphael for hours." "I'm counting on it," he said, and before he could overthink it, he leaned in and kissed her cheek. "Good night, Olivia Hayes." She smiled up at him, a small dimple appearing in her right cheek. "Good night, Hunter Fairchild." He waited until she was safely inside before turning to walk back to the hotel where he could catch a cab. His phone buzzed with emails from the Tokyo office, but for once, he didn't immediately check them. Instead, he found himself smiling at the night sky, feeling something he hadn't experienced in years' anticipation. Thursday couldn't come soon enough. When Thursday evening arrived, Hunter found himself doing something unusual, checking his appearance in his office mirror for the 3rd time. His assistant, Miranda, had given him a knowing look when he'd mentioned he had dinner plans. "You never have dinner plans," she'd observed. "Not personal ones anyway." He'd brushed off her comment, but she wasn't wrong. His calendar was typically packed with business dinners, not dates. The distinction made him unexpectedly nervous as he pulled up outside Olivia's apartment building. She emerged wearing a simple blue dress that made her copper hair seem even more vibrant, and Hunter felt that same strange flutter in his chest. "You look beautiful," he said as he opened the car door for her. "Thank you." She smiled, looking at his tailored suit. "You clean up pretty well yourself for a shipping guy." Dinner was at a small Italian restaurant in the West Village, authentic, intimate, and far from the flashy establishments where he might be recognized. He'd chosen it deliberately, wanting a place where they could talk without interruption. No reservation for the private room. She teased as they were seated at a table in the main dining area. "Would you have preferred that?" he asked. Liv shook her head. "No, I like this better. It feels more real." The word hung between them, real. Hunter realized how much of his life had become performative business meetings where everyone knew their role, charity galas where he made the expected appearances and donations, even dates that felt more like transactions. "So," he said as they settled in with glasses of wine, "Renaissance art in the 21st century. Make your case." Her eyes lit up with the challenge, and she launched into a passionate explanation of how Renaissance ideals of humanism, proportion, and perspective still influenced everything from modern architecture to advertising. Hunter found himself captivated not just by her knowledge, but by her enthusiasm, the way she used her hands when she spoke, the slight flush that colored her cheeks. "Sorry," she said, catching herself mid-explanation about Brunelleschi's innovations. "I'm rambling. Don't apologize," he replied. "It's refreshing to hear someone talk about something they truly care about." "What about you?" she asked. "What do you truly care about besides shipping and logistics?" The question caught him off guard. "That's a harder question than it should be," he admitted. "I care about building something lasting, about solving problems efficiently." "That sounds like your business card," she observed gently. Hunter smiled ruefully. "You're right. I guess I've been focused on work for so long I've let other things slide." "Like what?" He considered the question seriously. "Travel for pleasure, not business. Architecture, like I mentioned. Music, I used to play piano. Friends outside of Marcus." "Well," she said, raising her glass, "here's to remembering the things you care about." The dinner stretched into 3 hours of conversation that ranged from art history to technological innovation, from favorite books to embarrassing college stories. Hunter couldn't remember the last time he'd laughed so much or felt so engaged. When the restaurant began closing around them, he reluctantly signaled for the check. "Would you like to walk for a bit?" he suggested, not ready for the evening to end. They strolled through Washington Square Park, where a street musician was playing jazz on a saxophone, the notes floating through the warm night air. "Dance with me," Liv said suddenly, holding out her hand. Hunter hesitated. "Here, now, why not?" her eyes challenged him. He took her hand, drawing her close as they swayed gently to the music. The park was nearly empty, the fountain creating a backdrop of gentle, splashing water. "I haven't danced like this in years," he admitted, his hand resting lightly on her waist. "That's a shame," she replied, looking up at him. "You're good at it." Under the park lights, her eyes seemed to shift colors amber to gold to a warm brown. Hunter found himself studying her face, memorizing the small details. The way her left eyebrow arched slightly higher than her right, the tiny scar near her hairline, the fullness of her lower lip. When the song ended, they stayed close, neither moving away. "I should get you home," he said finally, though everything in him wanted to stay. As they approached her building, Liv turned to him. "I had a wonderful time tonight, Hunter." "So did I," he replied, suddenly feeling like a teenager on a first date. "Could I see you again?" Her smile was answer enough. "I'd like that. I'm giving a lecture at the museum on Saturday afternoon. It's open to the public on Botticelli's influence on contemporary fashion. You could come if you're interested. Maybe coffee after. I'll be there," he promised. This time when he leaned in to kiss her cheek, she turned her face slightly, and their lips met briefly, a whisper of contact that left him wanting more. "Good night, Hunter," she said softly, slipping inside the building with one last smile over her shoulder. Hunter stood on the sidewalk for a moment, feeling something unfamiliar expanding in his chest. Possibility. Saturday found Hunter sitting in the museum's lecture hall, watching as Olivia transformed from the woman he danced with in the park to a confident expert commanding the room's attention. Her presentation was brilliant, weaving art history with contemporary fashion in ways that made even Hunter, who knew little about either subject, lean forward in his seat. When she fielded questions afterward, her quick wit and extensive knowledge impressed him even more. He found himself smiling with pride, as though he had any claim to her success. "What did you think?" she asked when she finally found him waiting by the exit. "That was incredible," he said honestly. "The way you connected Botticelli's use of drapery to Alexander McQueen's designs, I'll never look at fashion the same way." Her face lit up. "You actually paid attention." "Of course I did. It was fascinating." As they walked to a nearby cafe, Hunter found himself reaching for her hand naturally, as if they'd been doing this for years instead of days. She threaded her fingers through his without hesitation. Their coffee date stretched into an impromptu dinner, which led to a movie in the park, blankets spread on the grass as they watched Casablanca under the stars. When Hunter put his arm around her shoulders as the evening grew cool, she leaned into him, her head resting against his chest. The next 3 weeks passed in a whirlwind of stolen evenings and weekend afternoons. Hunter found himself rearranging meetings to make time for museum visits, for walks along the High Line, for cooking dinner in his penthouse kitchen while Liv perched on the counter telling him about her day. They discovered shared interests in classic films and jazz music, debated the merits of modernist architecture, and found themselves talking late into the night about everything and nothing. For Hunter, who had lived his life according to carefully calculated schedules and risk assessments, the spontaneity was both terrifying and exhilarating. When Liv called on a Tuesday afternoon suggesting they meet for an impromptu picnic in Central Park, he surprised himself by immediately agreeing, delegating an important client meeting to his VP of operations. "Are you feeling all right?" Miranda had asked, only half joking. "You've never voluntarily missed a client meeting before." He didn't know how to explain that for the first time in years, something someone felt more important than work. As they lay on a blanket under a maple tree, watching clouds drift across the blue sky, Liv propped herself up on one elbow to look at him. "You're different than I expected," she said. "Is that good or bad?" he asked, reaching up to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear. "Good." When Marcus talked about his millionaire friend who never stopped working, I pictured someone cold, calculating. She traced a finger along his jawline. "But you're not like that at all." "I was," he admitted. "Or I was becoming that before I met you." She leaned down to kiss him softly. "What changed?" Hunter considered the question seriously. "You make me remember the person I wanted to be before success became the only goal. You make me want more than just the next deal or acquisition." "Hunter Fairchild, are you saying I'm a good influence?" she teased, but her eyes were soft. He pulled her down for another kiss, longer this time. "The best," he murmured against her lips, but their idyll couldn't remain undisturbed forever. Reality intruded in the form of a front-page business story featuring Hunter's latest acquisition, a struggling shipping company he'd purchased for its innovative tracking technology. "Fairchild adds another company to growing empire," read the headline, accompanied by a photo of Hunter looking stern in a boardroom. The article painted him as a ruthless businessman, mentioning layoffs at the acquired company without context. Liv was quiet when they met for dinner that evening, the newspaper folded under her arm. "You've seen it," he said, not a question. She nodded. "Is it true about the layoffs?" Hunter sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Partially, we had to eliminate some redundant positions. But what the article doesn't mention is that we offered most of those employees other positions within Fairchild, and those who didn't fit, we provided generous severance packages and job placement services." Why doesn't the article say that? "Because businessman makes reasonable business decision isn't as attention-grabbing," he said with a wry smile. "Liv, my company isn't perfect, but I try to do right by people. Always." She studied him, then nodded slowly. "I believe you, it's just sometimes I forget who you are out there in the world." "Does it bother you?" he asked, suddenly uncertain. "The money, the public profile?" "No," she said after a moment. "What would bother me is if the person in these articles wasn't the same person I'm falling in love with." The words hung between them. Falling in love, neither had said them before. "And is he?" Hunter asked, his heart hammering against his ribs. "The same person?" Liv reached across the table to take his hand. "I think so, I hope so." "I am," he promised, squeezing her hand. "And for what it's worth, I'm falling in love with you too, Olivia Hayes." Her smile was worth more than any business deal he'd ever closed. The following week brought another test when Hunter invited Liv to a charity gala where he was being honored for his philanthropy. It would be their first official appearance together in his world of wealth and influence. "Are you sure you want me there?" she asked as they discussed it over dinner at her apartment, a cozy one-bedroom filled with art books and vintage furniture. "It seems like a big step." "I'm sure," he said. "Unless you'd rather not go," she bit her lip. "It's not that, it's just, I don't exactly have gala-appropriate attire in my closet." Hunter smiled in relief, a problem easily solved. "Let me take care of that." "Hunter, I can't let you buy me a dress," she protested. "Think of it as borrowing," he suggested. "For one night." After some negotiation, they compromised. She would accept a dress as a gift, but she would choose it herself, and it wouldn't be outrageously expensive. The night of the gala, Hunter arrived at her apartment to find her transformed and yet entirely herself. The dress she'd chosen was elegant but understated, a deep emerald that complemented her coloring perfectly. "You look stunning," he said, unable to take his eyes off her. "You don't look so bad yourself," she replied, straightening his bow tie. "Ready to show me off to your rich friends?" Despite her teasing tone, he sensed her nervousness. "They'll love you," he assured her. "And if they don't, their opinions don't matter to me anyway." The gala was held at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, Liv's workplace, though in a context she rarely experienced. As they entered the great hall, transformed with flowers and lights for the evening, Hunter felt her tense beside him. "What is it?" he asked quietly. "Doctor." "Winters is here," she whispered. "My boss, this is surreal." Hunter squeezed her hand reassuringly. "Just be yourself. That's who I want beside me tonight." The evening proved to be a study in contrasts. Hunter watched as Liv navigated the world of wealth and privilege with grace, but without pretension. She charmed his business associates with her knowledge of art and culture, listened attentively to their stories, and occasionally caught Hunter's eye across the room with a small smile that seemed to say, "Can you believe this?" when Dr. Winters approached them, Liv introduced Hunter as "my boyfriend" for the first time. The words sent a wave of warmth through him. "So you're the reason we've been seeing Olivia smiling so much lately," Dr. Winters said, shaking Hunter's hand. "She's one of our brightest curators, you know." "I do know," Hunter replied. "She's remarkable." Later, as he accepted his award for contributions to arts education, Hunter found himself looking for Liv in the crowd. When he spotted her, applauding with genuine pride in her eyes, he went off script. "I've always believed in supporting the arts because they connect us to our shared humanity," he said into the microphone. "But recently, I've been reminded that connections matter not just in abstract ways but in very personal ones. Thank you to everyone here tonight who makes those connections possible." Only Liv knew he was speaking directly to her. As the evening wound down, they slipped away from the main hall, Liv leading him through a staff door to a gallery that was closed to the gala guests. "I wanted to show you something," she said, guiding him to a small Renaissance painting tucked in a corner. "This is one of my favorites. It's not famous or particularly valuable, but look at the detail and how the artist captured the light." Hunter studied the painting, a simple scene of a man and woman sitting together by a window, their hands barely touching on the table between them. The intimacy in that small point of contact was palpable even across centuries. "It's beautiful," he said. "Like a private moment we're being allowed to witness." She looked up at him with those amber eyes. "That's exactly what I've always thought." In the quiet gallery, surrounded by art that had survived for hundreds of years, Hunter pulled her close. "I love you, Olivia Hayes," he said simply. "I think I started falling the moment you asked if I was flirting with you at that engagement party." She laughed softly. "I was so nervous when I said that. I couldn't believe Hunter Fairchild was helping me clean up chocolate fountain disasters." "Best chocolate disaster of my life," he murmured, kissing her gently. "I love you too," she whispered against his lips. "Even if you are ridiculously wealthy and it complicates everything." "Does it complicate things?" he asked, suddenly serious. She considered the question. "Sometimes. I worry about fitting into your world, about people thinking I'm with you for your money, about maintaining my independence." "All valid concerns," he acknowledged. "What can I do to help?" The fact that he asked, that he didn't dismiss her worries or try to solve them, immediately made her smile. "Just keep seeing me," she said. "The real me, not some idea of who I should be because I'm dating you." "I promise," he said, sealing the vow with another kiss. 6 months later, Hunter found himself back at the Grand Plaza Hotel, this time for a fundraiser for the museum's education program. As he adjusted his cufflinks, he thought about how much had changed since that first night he'd walked into Marcus's engagement party. His phone buzzed with a text from Liv. "Running late. Go in without me, save me some champagne." Hunter smiled, tucking the phone away. He had something better than champagne waiting for her tonight. The event was in full swing when Liv finally arrived, slightly breathless, her cheeks flushed from rushing. She spotted him immediately, crossing the room with a smile that still made his heart race. "Sorry," she said, accepting the glass he offered. "Meeting ran long, then taxi drama." "You're here now," he said, kissing her quickly. "That's what matters." They moved through the crowd together, stopping to chat with colleagues and donors. Hunter noticed how seamlessly Liv now moved between their two worlds, respected in her own right at the museum, but equally comfortable with his business associates. When Marcus and Olivia appeared, Back from their extended honeymoon travels, the four of them found a quiet corner to catch up. "So," Marcus said, looking between Hunter and Liv with a smug expression, "I take full credit for this relationship, you know." "How do you figure that?" Liv asked, amused. "If I hadn't forced Hunter to attend my engagement party, if I hadn't asked you to plan it," he counted off on his fingers, "and if I hadn't specifically introduced you too." "You're a regular matchmaker," Hunter conceded, his arm around Liv's waist. As the evening wore on, Hunter grew increasingly nervous, checking his pocket periodically to ensure the small velvet box was still there. He'd been carrying it for weeks, waiting for the right moment. When the orchestra began playing a waltz, he led Liv onto the dance floor, holding her close as they moved in perfect sync. "Remember the first time we danced?" he asked. "In Washington Square Park," she smiled up at him. "How could I forget? That's when I knew I was in trouble." "Trouble." I'd promised myself I wouldn't fall for you, but dancing under those trees, I knew it was already too late." Hunter guided them toward the terrace doors, leading her outside where the night air was cool and clear. The city lights sparkled below them, and above, a few stars managed to shine through the urban glow. "Hunter, is everything okay?" Liv asked, noticing his sudden tension. He took both her hands in his. "More than okay. Olivia, before I met you, I thought I had everything figured out. Success meant building a bigger company, making more money, closing the next deal. But you showed me what I was missing: connection, spontaneity, joy." Her eyes widened as he reached into his pocket, then lowered himself to one knee. "I love you, Olivia Hayes. Your passion, your intelligence, your kindness, the way you see beauty in everything, the way you've helped me see it too." He opened the box, revealing a vintage-style emerald ring surrounded by small diamonds. "Will you marry me?" For a moment, she simply stared at the ring, then at his face. Tears welled in her eyes. "Hunter," she whispered, and for a terrible moment he feared she might refuse. Then she smiled through her tears. "Yes, of course, yes." As he slipped the ring onto her finger, cheers erupted behind them. They turned to see Marcus, Olivia, and several of their friends watching through the terrace doors. "Sorry," Marcus called, not looking sorry at all. "We couldn't miss it." Liv laughed, wiping away happy tears as Hunter stood and pulled her into his arms. "I guess we have witnesses," she said. "Good," Hunter replied, "because I want everyone to know how lucky I am." Later that night, as they walked along the same streets where they'd first gotten to know each other, Liv held up her hand, watching the emerald catch the light from the street lamps. "It's perfect," she said. "How did you know?" "It reminded me of that dress you wore the night we met," Hunter explained. "And of your eyes when you're excited about something you love." She stopped walking to kiss him deeply. "I can't believe we're really doing this." "Having second thoughts?" he asked, only half joking. "Not a single one," she assured him. "Just thinking about how differently things might have gone if Marcus hadn't been so determined to introduce us." Hunter pulled her close against the night's chill. "I'd have found you eventually," he said with certainty. "Is that right?" she teased. "The millionaire shipping magnate and the museum curator?" "Some things are meant to be," he said simply. "We were always going to happen, Olivia Hayes, even if it took a chocolate fountain disaster to bring us together." She laughed, the sound still his favorite in the world, and together they walked toward home, toward their future one neither could have predicted that night at an engagement party, but that now neither could imagine living without.